Hello, my name's Sam Jordan, and today I'm going to be showing you around my 1990 Mercedes S-Class. I've actually been a car dealer for over 15 years. It's all I've ever done, and it's always been, my passion. It's actually sort of how it started, really. It was a hobby that turned into a business. And I've sold a lot of modern cars, but my passion lies with things like this, which is sort of 1980s and mid-1990s German cars, anything oddball really, not exclusively German cars, but as I say, old BMW M cars, Porsche 928s, the old Mercs, Alphas, just anything really a bit different. I don't really get that excited by supercars, so I'm hoping to bring you a bit of different content for you to enjoy. I've got a few quite interesting, bits and pieces at the moment that I can hopefully show you. And while we're all in lockdown, I can't drive any of them, but I can show you around them, show you some of the features and the details which, interest me and hopefully will interest you too. So let's start with this. This is a 1990 car, as I say. Now this is what's known as a W126 S-Class. These were produced from, I think, about 1979 to 1991, making it one of the longest running and most successful Mercedes-Benz models. These were a very sort of famous car back in the day. I mean, they had a huge list of famous and notorious owners as well. So, for instance, these were favoured by the likes of Saddam Hussein, Colonel Gaddafi, the Pope, obviously maybe not so notorious, but I'm guessing all of those people's cars were probably bulletproof. John Gotti had one. Ayrton Senna, I think he had a black 500 SEC, which is the coupe. Sylvester Stallone, Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury very famously had a chauffeur-driven one because he didn't actually drive himself. I don't think he had a driving license. So really, these were the car to have and to be seen in, and in the following video you'll hopefully see why. So here it goes. So the W126 S-Class was actually designed by an Italian, a chap called Bruno Sacco, who designed several other Mercedes-Benz of the era. I think he was actually responsible for the Pagoda, which was a very famous Mercedes SL, which was the first SL model from Mercedes in the late 60s. They are worth huge money now, and the styling of those is sort of generally regarded as timeless. Now, this, the 126, is probably not the most, you certainly wouldn't call it beautiful, but it's handsome nonetheless. It's a good looking car, very, very traditional Mercedes styling. As I say, it's not designed to draw attention to itself, it's just designed to be understated and classy. And really just a slightly bigger version of the smaller Mercedes models. But I think it's aged very well. I think they still look the part. I think it's, anyone who really knows anything about cars at all wouldn't fail to spot it as a Mercedes. Obviously the modern ones, you don't get the three-pointed star on the bonnet anymore due to safety regulations, but this is an era when, well, they didn't not worry about them, because this was actually one of the first cars in production ever to have crumple zones. So they certainly thought about safety. It was one of the first production cars to have airbags widely fitted, particularly in the States. A lot of you guys over there have more of these with airbags. They were an option over here in Europe, but less cars have airbags, and even though this is a later one, this is a 1990 car, this one doesn't actually have an airbag. So this is a mid-range model. This is the 420. So it's a 4.2 litre V8 engine. So it's still got quite a bit of power. It's not hugely fast. It's, I think, about 230 horsepower, which is more than enough to move it, and it moves quite well. But it's just the refinement and the comfort that you need, really more than some of the more spirited versions from the likes of AMG. So let's take a look at some of the features that really sort of set this car apart from other cars. You know, bear in mind this was a car that was produced at a time when the likes of General Motors in the States were producing some really horrendously made vehicles. In Europe, the likes of Ford and Vauxhall, again, the cars, Ford Granadas, Vauxhall and Opel, Carltons and Amigas, they're just not on the same level. I mean, the build quality of these for the time, and even now, is exceptional. So design feature number one, you probably didn't know about. These tail lights here are ribbed, as you can see. They've got these deep grooves in. Now this wasn't just this model, the 126 had them, as did I think the E-Class and the 190s, and probably several other Mercedes models as well had this. I think Mercedes is the only manufacturer I can think of that had this design of tail light. The reason they're styled like this is simple. If you're a Saudi Arabian oil baron and you're out in the desert and your car gets a bit dusty, this design keeps them clean. As you can see, these are actually a little bit dusty, not dusty enough to showcase its effects, but when the cars are dirty, they stay noticeably cleaner and the light output is not compromised. So that's definitely form over function, but they look okay, and now you know. Well, it's not just fancy tail lights either that mark the S-Class out as something a bit special, and not just your run-of-the-mill sedan built on a budget. Just the quality of the engineering that goes into these is just above and beyond what you'd expect on most cars, particularly of this era. You know, this is a time well before cars had sat-nav, Bluetooth or anything electronic. This was a time when they were just engineered, and the company, this is often quoted as when people talk about Mercedes-Benz, they often say they were built by engineers and not accountants, and that's true. Look at the fuel filler, for instance. How many cars do you see with a proper solid metal fuel filler cap? Okay, it's only a minor detail, but you could have made that out of plastic and no one would have cared. But being a Mercedes, it had to be metal, and it just, even now 30 years later, it's just perfect. And look at the hinge. You know, they've got this complicated hinge assembly. Again, solid metal flap. All the cars now are plastic. They don't have metal fuel flaps anymore. This is just made out of steel like the rest of the car, and it just shows throughout the car. The door hinges, for instance, are like something out of a Swiss bank vault. Look how thick they are. I mean, they could support a door probably 5 or 6 times the weight of this one, but they're just there because Mercedes built these cars to a standard that was pretty much unmatched at the time. People think, you know, Rolls Royces and Bentleys are well made. Well, compared to a Mercedes of the 1980s, that is not true. The build quality of these is far, far superior. Have a look at the door hinge. Look at that. Again, that looks like something off the German Imperial Navy. You know, that could be off the Bismarck. Look at the thickness of the steel and the quality of the hinge. It's just a nice detail that it illustrates for me what a Mercedes should all be about. And now we're sat in the interior. It's a very nice place to spend time. It's comfortable. It's not flashy. It's not show off. It's not ostentatious. But it's just solid, well made craftsmanship. So I'm now sat in the S-Class. I want to show you some of the other features inside that really make this car quite special and just a bit different from some of the other mass-produced cars from the 80s. you've got the sort of classic Mercedes instrument cluster here. I think these were in use sort of certainly from the 60s in terms of the yellow and white dials. They're really easy to read, understand, and obviously this was in a time before, you know, there were digital displays or, you know, complicated trip computers. You do have a small LCD display, which is here, and that is actually for the outside temperature. So as you can see, it's a nice warm 16 degrees centigrade here. But you also get a couple of gauges that you don't tend to get in modern cars, and I certainly can't remember the last time I saw a modern car was one. This one here, which is an oil pressure gauge. As I say, they've sort of disappeared really. I don't know why, but it's something I quite like seeing. And you get this rather tacky economy gauge. Mercedes obviously weren't very good at calculating exact miles per gallon, and to be honest, in a V8 powered S-Class you don't really want to know how many miles to the gallon you're doing, so this just sort of hints at what you might be doing. Generally the red area is bad and you're not getting very many miles for your money when you're in that, but that is where you will spend most of your time, because I have never seen the economy gauge much past the halfway line, so it does suck fuel, but so be it. It's an S-Class, and that is how it is. Now when I start it, you'll notice the oil pressure gauge will go right up to the top, which is where it should be, but you know, the if you get a poorly maintained one, and they do exist, I mean, these are cars, you know, that have fallen into horrendous hands, people who just don't care, they don't get oil changes, and if you're buying one of these or any Mercedes really, just check the oil pressure goes up you know, to the top as soon as it starts. This car is cold, the engine is not been run today. And look at that, straight up to over 3 bar. As I say, for a car that's 30 years old, that is pretty impressive. You'll also see the idle is pretty steady. It's almost completely smooth, doesn't move. And again, for a 30-year-old car to have a rock solid idle from cold, it's not obviously completely out of the blue, but it's just a sign of Mercedes quality. Generally, you know, you could get an old Ford or an old Vauxhall, which is an Opel for those in Europe, and the chances of it running as nicely as this, not quite as high. So there's a couple of baffling things about this car, and bear in mind this was the flagship, and Mercedes obviously, you know, these were sold to politicians, to the royal families, you know, chairmen, all sorts. You get this as a key. Yes, this. This looks like it could be for my office filing cabinet. I mean, it is horrendous. And why Mercedes go to the effort of making a car that has a solid metal fuel filler cap, oil pressure gauges, fancy hinged bonnets, which I'll show you shortly, and to give you a key like that? I don't understand it. And another slightly baffling thing about the S-Class is you have, as you'd expect really, even on a car this age, you have an electric mirror on the passenger side, but on the driver's side you have a manual mirror, so you still have to move it yourself, which frankly on a luxury car is a no-no. So as I check out my garden furniture, you can see it just doesn't really cut it, and it's surprising. Now, one other thing, you don't get a conventional handbrake in the S-Class. You'll notice down here where the auto shifter is, you've just got your electric window controls, your passenger mirror, and your auto shifter. So the handbrake is actually on the dashboard, and it's this rather ominous looking handle here, which looks a bit like an ejection seat release, but to pull the handbrake, that is the handbrake on, and to release it you pull again, turn and release. It's quite satisfying. It's a bit of a strange design, but I suppose the theory makes sense and it does save space. Now, another quirky thing about these is the wipers. So you'll notice if I squirt the wipers, look at the sweep of the screen. You've got a double wiper setup, but one wipes faster than the other. This is to actually, apparently, clear more of the screen than conventional windscreen wipers. Quite clever, but again, very over-engineered, and still something that hasn't caught on. If we check out the interior, this car actually has leather, and believe it or not, for a luxury car, again a bit like the manual mirror control, leather wasn't actually standard on the S-Class, and you got a velour interior standard, and leather was actually an extra cost option. They also did something called MB Tex, which looks like leather but is actually vinyl, but it's extremely hard wearing, and actually in some ways, this, as I say, this car has the full leather interior. MB Tex is actually slightly, well, very hard wearing, and it's almost indestructible. So if you get a car with an MB Tex interior, you can't destroy it. It will still be here after the Third World War. You also get lashings of wood and these rather strange pleated door cards, which not really to modern taste, but I suppose in the 80s they were all the rage. And you've got this rather outdated Kenwood radio cassette, which I don't actually think is original. If I was keeping this, I would probably put a different head unit in. I think Mercedes did one with from the factory was a Blaupunkt unit, or something called a Becker, which was a very high-end manufacturer of car audio. I think they're still going. They did a very famous radio called a Becker Mexico, which for all the Mercedes fanatics out there will know what I'm talking about. And the other omission from this car is air conditioning, as you'll see down here with the ventilation controls. You have recirculate and you've got cold and hot air, but there is no aircon. Again, that was an option, and whoever bought this new thought he'll have the leather and a sunroof, which again is an extra cost option, but no aircon. So you've got to open the windows and just bear with it. Well, another thing I want to show you is in the back here. If you're unfortunate enough to have an accident in one of these and you have the presence of mind, just hop in the back, and on the rear parcel shelf here you'll notice you've got this little medical symbol, and you've got your very own Mercedes-Benz first aid kit. Now, I wouldn't advise using this particular one unless you're desperate, because this is 30 years old. But I'll just show you, again, something you don't tend to get in the modern ones. Look at all the list in French and German of what's in here. So you've got tape, you've got bandages, first aid packets, gauze, safety pins, first aid scissors, and a piece of white chalk. I'm not sure what the chalk is for, but it's nice to know it's there. Look at all this. I mean, this is very, very precise and German. As I say, they like to make sure you're covered for all situations. And again, it's just something you just don't tend to get in lesser cars. So, immediate measures to take at the scene of the accident. The Sofortmaßnahmen am Unfallort. Or something like that. I never did German at school, but I'm sure that is what it says. So there you go. You'd obviously have to be very calm and collected and have the presence of mind after the accident to listen to and take in all of what this says. But it's again just nice to know Mercedes think of these things and have every possible situation covered. You'll also notice you've got these little windscreen wipers for the headlight glass. and they actually have a wash as well, so you've got a little wiper blade, and you'll notice behind here, oh, it's come undone, you'll see you've got a little squirter as well, just to keep the lights clean. They seem to have a bit of a fetish at Mercedes about keeping the lights clean, like they do the back as well. You'll also notice this car has some rather nice grille badges. These obviously aren't original, but I've left them on there because they just show the sort of calibre of the man or woman who owns this. So the owner of this car was obviously a yachtsman. They loved touring around France, and of course over here in the UK, those of you will know this is the AA, which is the Automobile Association, who will come out in a little yellow van and rescue you should you break down. Being a Mercedes, of course, that will not happen, but it's nice to know you've got it there just in case. Also notice you've got this solid metal chrome grille. Again, these are sort of fallen out of fashion on the newer ones, certainly of that size. I mean, that is a really, really big grille. And you've got a stylised Mercedes logo there with the wreath and the famous three-pointed star, which you, as you're driving through the country lanes, you just have that proudly riding atop the bonnet there, just to let you know you're in a Mercedes. So if we have a look under the bonnet, as I say, this is the 420, so this has a V8 in it. This is a 4.2 litre V8 engine. These have about 230 horsepower, I think, from memory, which is not huge power output, especially by today's standards, but it's enough. Obviously these are nowhere near as heavy as the modern S-classes, so in weight this is probably more like a modern C-Class or a 3 Series BMW. So they still go fairly well, but that's not really the point of these cars. The point of these cars is to be comfortable and to be smooth riding, to not upset the occupants, but to be powerful enough to dispatch most cars of the era. As you can see, you've got two big air intakes on both sides for both banks. Obviously with the V8 engine configuration, you've got the air coming in on both sides. They've got a big battery on these, obviously quite a lot of cranking power required. The other unusual thing about these is if I step back, you can see the bonnet. Now, working on these, especially with that big grille hanging down, is okay. There's still room to get under the bonnet, but this was a thing of Mercedes of this era, and I think actually the modern ones still do have this as well. They've got this hinge system here which you can release, and that allows you can see how complicated the hinge design is. I mean, this is again just a typical example of huge over-engineering from Mercedes here. You've got this big complicated double hinge, so you release, if I know how to, you can release one side and then the other, and it allows you to lift the bonnet all the way up 90 degrees. I will return later once I've figured out how to do this, two-handed. There you go, some degree of messing about later, but I can't do it one-handed. It's actually very easy, you just release the catch, but as you can see, that hinge mechanism allows you to flip the bonnet more or less 90 degrees, which allows you completely untroubled access to the engine bay to work on it. I think Mercedes is the only manufacturer I know that you can do this. I think most of the other manufacturers probably chose not to because of the cost of engineering such overly complicated hinges. But it just really shows you Mercedes' attention to detail and the engineering. Again, that just sets these cars apart a bit from certainly the modern cars, but also other cars of the same era but different manufacturers. So there you have it. That's the 126 Mercedes S-Class. These sold very well. There's still quite a few of these on the road. There's not so many in as nice condition as this one. This is a real lovely low mileage, sort of what I call a survivor car. A lot of these have fallen into very bad hands, people who haven't looked after them, and dubiously modified, horrible wheels, paintwork that's just been done appallingly badly, you know, cars that have lived outside all their life, and believe it or not, for all of the build quality of these, they do suffer big time from rust problems. You know, particularly if you're buying one of these, a common place to look is under the rear windscreen here from within the boot. All the wheel arches, all the sills, the floor pan, they can really suffer heavy corrosion. So if you are looking at buying a 126, my advice would be to buy the absolute best you can find. You're far better off spending double the cost of a poor quality car on a good one, because it will cost you far more than that extra money to restore one of these. I think people just don't realise how much money it costs to restore a car that has sort of let go, and you're always better off starting with something that's nice to begin with. And that's it really. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next episode, where I will be showcasing another luxury car, something not quite as old as this, but just, well, in fact, probably more interesting than this, and also I would guarantee something you've probably never heard of. So until then, thank you for watching.